Okay, welcome. Today we're going to talk about turning on a CNC vertical mill and also about picking up an edge and picking up center to set our G54 work offset number 1. So first thing we're going to do is turn the power on, pull our emergency stop, wait for it to come up. Here we go. All of our safety information again. Never bypass safety systems. And today, we're not going to bypass any. We're not going to be pulling any keys out or anything today. So, in order to home this machine, I'm going to have to close the doors. So I'm going to go ahead and just close the doors now while it's warming up. If you don't have the doors closed, it won't allow the machine to move in auto. So now that I have this up, I clear all my alarms and I hit power up restart. It's going to go ahead and find all its machine homes now. Takes it a little bit because it has to walk all the way, table all the way down in order to find its X all the way over here. All right, so we've got ourselves to home, but you notice the Z is not blacked out. That's because I have tool number 1 in the spindle. It didn't have to do a tool change, so it didn't have to come down to the tool change height. So I have to hit power up restart one more time. And now the tool comes down. All right, now we can open up the doors. I want to use an edge finder to pick up my edge. You can use a dial indicator or other things, and we're not going to get into that today. But today, to pick up our G54, our work offset number 1, we're going to use an edge finder. We need to know before we even start that this diameter right here is 200 thousandths, 0.200. That's important to know when you're using an edge finder. We'll return to that, but I just want to talk about it. Okay, I have tool number 1 in the spindle. I need to get this edge finder in there. I can manually take it out, but I don't want to mess up my offset of that tool. So I'm going to simply close the doors so I can do an auto. Now I'm going to go to MDI. I have something in there already. I erase it. And I'm going to put in T6. That's for tool 6. And then we have to put in a tool change, which would be M06. Write that in. There it is, our miniature little program. That's MDI, manual data input. I say that's me data inputting, or the little man putting data in. So now I hit cycle start, because this is like a miniature program. If I hit cycle start, it's going to change tools. Now this leaves me, as you can see, with an open spindle, so I can put my edge finder in. I'm going to go to hand jog now because in MDI it wouldn't allow me to manually put one in. So I go to hand jog. Now I come over here. This button opens up the toolbar inside, which will grab this retention knob and hold it up into the spindle. This is a retention knob, or a pull stud, some people call it. So I put it up in the spindle and line it up. Now here in the spindle, I don't know if you can see that or not, there are some drive dogs or solid blocks. I'm going to pull this back out. Those fingers sit right into these slots. This one doesn't matter which way you have it. Some machines it matters which way you put it in. On a Haas it does not. Sometimes if the fingers are turned this way in the normal tool change position, you can't tell and you get it off wacky or whatever, and I'll even put it in wrong so you can see. Now see, that's not right. It's not down in there, so you're not getting a good grab. The taper's not locked in. If you start that up, it would woggle just like that, and you'd immediately know you had a problem. If you didn't notice it and it came down to cut on your part, you'd have a big problem. Probably have a crash. So I, a lot of times, will just reach in and turn the spindle so the fingers are facing me. You're not hurting anything by doing that. Then I can put this up in there. Now I can line that up with my eye and see where it's at. I know I'm in the right spot. So I've got that in the spindle now. Next thing we need to do is pick a speed. Well, because I have the doors open, this machine is set to only go 750 RPM. So it'd be pointless to program it to anything faster. As soon as I open the doors, it would default to 750. So, going back into MDI, because again, this is a miniature program to start your spindle, we'll erase that. We're going to put S for spindle, 750, and then it doesn't matter which way you spin it, but just for commonality, I'm going to pick M03 or M03. That's going to be turning in a clockwise manner. Clockwise is though I'm looking down on the spindle from above, not if I'm looking up at it from the bottom. So I put that in, right enter, it's in there. Again, I have to close the doors because this is a automatic option. Cycle start, and my spindle's running. Now I wouldn't have had to do that right now, but let's get it going. Now I'm going to go back into hand jog so I can hand jog or move it by hand. Pick my X axis here, pick a 10 thousandths per click, so it's not going to take me forever to get over there, and start moving it in the X minus direction. The table will look like it's moving X positive. You are always the cutter, always what's in the spindle. Some machines, the knee moves up and down, or the table moves up and down. Some machines, the head moves in and out. So if you had to try and figure out which way the machine was running, is the table moving up and down, is the head moving in and out, you'd go bonkers just trying to figure out how to program. So to make it simple, all machines run as though the cutter is doing all the motion. Even if it's sitting static and the table's moving around underneath it, you program it and treat it like the cutter's doing the motion. So I put X and I go in a negative manner to put my cutter or tool going that way. Now you see the table moving underneath it. Table's moving in a positive direction, but I'm thinking about the cutter or the tool moving in a negative direction. So I get over here. Now I need to move it in Y to get it out this way. Now I'm going to bring it down in Z. This is the one you really got to be careful of, because this is where people aren't paying attention and they crunch it right into the top of their part. It's a $20 edge finder, but I don't want to spend $20 every day. Okay, now I'm going to stop this real quick. Now I don't have to program it to stop. I just hit stop here on my overrides. Stops. I just want to point out real quick, I have a cute little pink or red, whatever you want to call it, vice stop in here. This vice stop has got a pin against the part. If I was going to do multiple parts, I could pick up the first one. The back jaw of my vise doesn't move, so it wouldn't change. And the edge now of my edge finder, or I mean of my vice stop, would hold it in place. I left that in there just so you can see. There are various types of vice stops you can use. This is a more common one because I can get it below the top of my part. If I'm cutting around the top, I'm not going to take a chance on walking into my vice stop. So I just want to point that out. So when we pick up this edge, if we had several of these to do, they'd all be in the same place when we're done. All right, so now I have programmed a speed or an RPM. I don't have to reprogram that since it's already in there. I can just hit clockwise and the spindle starts again. I'm going to walk it down in Z just a little bit more. Now this is probably the most critical part of picking up. Looking for what they call the kick, and I will talk about that a little bit more. In the X motion, it's going to kick in the Y, so it's a little harder to see. So this is when you cautiously stick your head in there and look. And I will get it close first, and some people are so afraid to walk up on this, and oh, they're moving at 1,000th at a time. You can move at 10,000ths at a time right now. When you see it kick, you can back it off, go to the 1,000th. You're not going to hurt it if you offset it by 10 to start with. Now if you keep cranking, you're going to bust it. So still be cautious. So I'm just going to get my head in here. Now it's almost running perfectly true with the rest. There was the kick. Now you'll be able to see it better when I pick up the Y-axis. So I'm going to back it off 1, click, 2, there. Now I'm going to go to 1,000th on here because I want to be more accurate than within 10. So I'm going to walk it again. I'm going to get down in here and look at it again. There's the kick. Now I'm going to stop it. So that is, I'm sitting, the edge of my edge finder sitting on the edge of my part. I'm going to walk it up in Z and get it out of there. Now, we talked about this was 200 thousandths in diameter. This is where that becomes important. I need to zero out my readout. So I just hit MDI, hand jog. Now those are all 0. I don't want to be on the edge of the edge finder. I want to be on the center of the spindle. So I need to move half of that diameter to put me on center. So if it's 0.200, 200 thousandths, I need to move 0.1. So I hit the X, and now I move over. We just kind of watch it here. $100 thousandths. That puts me right on the edge of my part. So the center of my spindle is now right on the edge of my part. So I need to get that put in. We're going to hit offset. Right now we're in tool offset. We need to get to work offset. Hit that, come down to G54, which is the most common work offset number 1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm picking up my X. So I'm sitting on X, it's highlighted. I just simply hit part 0 set. Make sure you're on the right axis. If you're on the Y, it's going to set it on the Y, and then everything's going to be all screwed up. So we just hit part 0 set. There, that is the center. And negative 19.3440 is the center of the spindle when it's sitting on the edge of the part, right there in X. Okay, so now we need to do Y. So we're going to go back into hand jog. I'm going to hit X again and walk it over a little bit, so we've got a little bit of meat we're touching on now. Get into the Y. Now, stick your head in there and make sure, yes, I'm past the front. From here you may think it's okay, but it's like looking at a speedometer from the passenger seat. You think you're going slower than you really are, or you think you're farther than you really are. You bring the thing down, all of a sudden, munch. This thing is hitting the edge of the part. You got a junk part, you probably have a junk edge finder, and you have a sick feeling in your stomach. So just stick your head in there. Yep, it's past it. Now when I go to Z, turn that off. Okay, I'm going to go to Z. I'm going to bring that down. Get my head down. Yeah, it's not really below very far yet. There. I'm going to have a good engagement on that. If you catch just the bottom edge of this to the top edge of that and it happens to kick, sometimes it'll swing around like that. Put what I call top of a smiley face or a crescent moon on there. I don't know why they call it a smiley face, but because you're not smiling when it happens. So we're going to turn the spindle back on. Again, I've already programmed the 750 spindle speed. I don't have to program it again. Simply hit this, my spindle started. And you see I've got a nice woggle or wiggle in my edge finder. You want that. If it's running true, you're not sure when you get close. Y-axis, because we're moving in Y. And we're moving positive, because that would be a positive. I'm thinking about my cutter. I'm going to go to 10 thousandths over here again. I'm going to walk it in. Don't get crazy. Just get up there and get close. That's running about true. There's the kick. But that's a 10 thousandths kick or somewhere in there. So we back it off a couple. Now, I'm going to go to 1 thousandth. Don't just crank it wildly. This is where you click it like a safe cracker. You want to know exactly when it does it. There it is. Stop it. See, it kicked. See, it just moved out just a little bit. That means that I have about 1 thousandth or less interference between that edge and the part. So it forces it to move off to the side since it can't go in any further this way. So, Z, walk it up out of there. Again, we're going to employ this over here. We're going to go MDI, hand jog, and I zeroed out my distance to go. That's a great way to do it. So now, I've got a 200 thousandths diameter tip. I need to move half of that, so I'm going to move 0.100 or 100 thousandths again. Why? I'm going to walk that in. 100 thousandths. Boy, that was lucky. I just nailed that on my first twist. Okay, so 100 thousandths. So now I go back into offset, and I'm highlighted on the Y. I know I say this all the time, but make sure you're on the axis you want. If you happen to do this, it messes stuff up. You're over here on the X, it's wrong. So now I'm on Y. I hit the same button, part 0 set. I've set that Y to 4.0630. Now I have my X and my Y set to this corner. Well, we can check that close to see if we're ballpark. What we can do is go back in MDI. I'm going to hit Erase Program. Now, I'm going to G54, right? For work offset 1. So let's say in our command G54, in other words, go to work offset 1, G00, do it in a rapid mode, G90, absolute, not incremental, X0 point, always put the decimal in there, it doesn't know what you're talking about, X0 what? Y0 point. Now I'm going to say right enter. Now there's a command to send that tool to G54, X0, and Y0. I'm just going to close the door and then we'll open it back up after we've done it. And I'm going to slow down my rapid to 25%. Hit cycle start. And moved right over that corner. So I usually just get my noggin down there and go, yep. And if I'm not sure, I'll go to hand jog Z and I'll bring that down really close. Again, be careful you don't turn this into a punch press right now. That looks good. That looks centered. So I know my G54 is right on the edge of my X and my Y. I've picked up that corner. A question I get lots of times is, well, my zero's not on the corner. It's in the middle. That's where the guy drew it on the print. Do I have to just like measure the part and go to the middle? You can, but you can also simply pick up both ends of the part and go to the middle. So that's what we're going to do next. I've demonstrated that. We'll make the G55. We'll do another one so we don't lose our G54. We'll do a G55, work offset number 2, to the center, okay? So take a little bit more, but it won't be too bad. All right, so I'm going to go back into hand jog. I'm in there right now, and I'm going to start the spindle again. There we go. Okay. So in Y, I know where this was at, but I'm going to pick it up again just so we get it. So first I'll start with X. So we're going to walk this over in X, walk it back in Y a little bit. Okay. So now I'm going to walk it down in Z, make sure I'm off the part. Yep. Walk it over in X, get it close. There's that kick, back it off. Okay, 1,000. Okay, there it was right there, just kicked. So I'm at 1,000th different than last time. That could be a bump on the part or whatever. We're close enough for what we're doing. Stop it, and I'm going to zero that out. MDI hand jog. All right. Now I'm going to bring it up in Z, and I'm going to walk it over in X to the other side. Make sure I'm over the part. Yep. Come down in Z. Turn on my spindle and walk it back in X. There was the kick. I'm going to go for it again now. There's the kick. Stop it and get it up out of Z. Okay, so now we need our handy dandy calculator. When we touched off on one side, we were at 0. On the opposite side, now we're at 5.451, or 5 inches, 451 thousandths. I'll put that in, 5.451. I'm going to divide that in half. Divide 2, I get 2.7255. So now I go back into my X, and I'm going to walk that back, 2.7255. $2.7255. That would be the center in X. So I go back into offset, get down on my G55, not G54, get back over to my X, and hit part 0 set. There you go. I've just set where the center of that part is at. So I have G54 to the corner, G55 to the center in X. Well, we need to do Y also. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to start the spindle. No, actually, I'll move it first so I can get my noggin in there and make sure everything's okay. I'll move it over here. Yep, I'm not over top of the part. Not going to have a punch press situation. Come down. There. Now I'll start the spindle. Walk it back in Y again. Looking for that kick. Keep walking it in now. There it is. There's the kick. So we hit MDI, hand jog. We zeroed this out again. Bring it up in Z. Gonna walk it back in Y to the back side now. I'm changing this to 10 thousandths as I do that. Again, stick my head in. Yep, I'm behind. I don't want to be over top. Can't stress that enough. I get my head down here and I watch for that indicator there. Watch for the edge finder to disappear below the top of the part a little ways. So now, turn on the spindle. Okay, there's the kick. I'm gonna back it off, look for it again. There it is. Okay, we're gonna walk it in. Patience is a virtue. There it is. Stop it. Walk it up in Z. Now this says I'm at 3 inches, 203 if we move it up to the Y. Oops, if we move it up to the Y. 3.203. So 3.203 divide 2. I have 1.6015. So now I'm going to get into the Y. I'm going to get into 10 thousandths and I'm going to walk it back toward me until I get to 1.6015. Okay, go back into my offset. Make sure that I'm on Y and I'm on G55 and hit part 0 set. Now, I've set that to the center of the part. Let's check it. Let's just walk it off now. We're going to go into X. We'll go to hand jog again. X. We'll walk it over in X a little bit. Walk it over in Y a little bit. There. Now we've totally moved it. So I go back into MDI. Now this is all set up to go to G54, the corner, right? So first off, I'm going to send it there. Then I'm going to send it to G55. Granted, I'm going to be doing it with the doors closed because I didn't pull the key. But we'll close the doors, open it up, and see where we're at. So I'll close them. I'm in this. Set it. So there's G54 again that we did before. So if I go in here and I change this to G55 and I alter it, whatever's under the black square will alter or change when I hit alter. Now it's G55. If I close the doors, hit cycle start, moved right to the center of the part. So that's 2 ways to pick up your edge. I've been asked before, well, what if I wanted an offset here and an offset here and an offset here and an offset here? I've never seen it. And if you ever do see that, I would ask the engineer what he's thinking. Usually you're going to have 1 offset on a part, maybe 2. Okay? Good deal. So, that was a G54, that's a G55. We picked it up, again, using our distance to go and using that as somewhat of a calculator and using our just simple calculator. All right, thanks a lot.